All right, people should be in.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're coming up on 3 o'clock. But while we give ourselves a few minutes, I'm going to ask you a little question, and you can feel free to go ahead and slide it in the chat while we give ourselves a few minutes for everyone to get settled. What are you the most excited to do this summer? So, Faisal, what are you most excited to do this summer?
I'm excited to read more and enjoy the sun and tan a little bit.
Good. That's awesome. That's awesome. What am I excited to do about this summer? Hmm. Think to just be more present with friends and family. Um, Usually at the government affairs team, you'll see later on, we get quite busy in the summer. A lot of travel. So maybe instead catch up with work. Anyone taking summer classes? And if you are, what are you taking? I know I made a grave mistake of taking French 1 and French 2 over summer semesters. Never, never. I highly recommend not taking a language over summer classes. How about you, Faisal? Have you ever had a um, difficult or maybe what was your favorite summer class that
I
you took?
I actually didn't take any summer classes because I wanted to try to enjoy my summer. I would actually go back home to my parents and help my dad at the shop, um, because my scholarship didn't cover summer classes. So I said, well, might as well help my dad at his work and get some bills paid. So
There you go. Yeah. My cousin's daughter is in the guard, and she does exactly the same thing. Her guard scholarship pays better in the fall and spring, so she'll spend her summer working 100%.
I was actually talking with my little brother about this a few days ago. He was like, what was your favorite summer when we were in school? I said, because like when things were slow at the shop, I would just sit around and do nothing. So I watched all of Star Wars for the first time, followed by Lord of the Rings for the first time. So I just in like 3 days, I had no sleep.
I think Steve says spend more time outside. Yes, I don't know if anyone is in the greater DMV area today. It is beautiful out. Devontae and I ate lunch on the rooftop today. All right, so it's 2 after. We'll go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to our June month how-to series with the Government Affairs team, Attorney Advocacy in Action. This is our season 2, episode 3, Committees on Congress in Detail. And I am Tammy, and I'm here with.
Hi, Sol. Hello again. And you can see the slides okay?
Yes,
All
perfect.
right.
So today we're gonna, as normal, do a quick SVA GA update, do some update from the Hill. Our how-to series is on the congressional committees in detail, and then our guest speaker is from the American Legion. And we'll save him Q&A for the end. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Faisal for some government affairs update.
Thank you, Tammy. Yeah, it's a busy summer ahead. Recently we were just down in Florida at the Florida Association of Veterans Educational Specialists. My slide deck just dropped. Okay, we're good. Sorry. At the Florida Educational Association of Veteran Educational Specialists, also known as FAVES. It's a conference where the school certifying officials, also known as SCOs, they get to attend and complete their trainings for the year. We had Corey Boatwright, our president and CEO, attend, give some opening remarks, as well as Ken Smith from Education Services to also give some opening remarks as well. Um, we also had a student panel with some of our students down in Florida, where they got to share some of the experiences, how they're involved with SVA, and also the impact that their educational benefits can have, and how they could be utilized. In July, just in a couple weeks, we'll be over in Hollywood attending the Western Association of Veterans Educational Specialists, VAVES. Later, we'll be attending the VFW National Convention in Reno, I believe. And then we'll end the summer out with AMVETS National Convention, and then last but not least, the American Legion National Convention to end August. The dates are on the screen there. If any of you all on the screen will be attending any of these conferences, please reach out. It's always nice to see a friendly face. Steve, I hope to see you at the American Legion National Convention later this summer. So, and we'll move on to the next slide. All right, updates from the House. It's been a quiet and also busy time in the House right now. Most recently, this was a hearing that we covered last month in our Lunch and Learn, in our how-to series, I'm sorry, on May 20th. I updated to show our statement for the record. If you click the link there where it says SFR, you could read our testimony on behalf of SVA. In addition, if you click the following link, you could see the rest of the testimonies. The American Legion has their own testimony alongside our other VFW, VSO, MSO allies. On June 12th, late last week, there was a House Veteran Affairs Committee technology modernization oversight field hearing, actually in Michigan. They were just reviewing the impact of the EHRM, also known as the Electronic Health Record Modernization activity that was going on. The House Armed Service Committee, as well as we'll say the Senate. The House Armed Service Committee, they have been busy marking up the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. You can click the link here, and that would take you to the full text. Over on the Senate has been busy with nominations. Gary Schatzwell is nominee to be the Assistant Secretary of Veteran Affairs for Information and Technology. And Michael Tierney is the nominee for the Assistant Secretary of Veteran Affairs for the Office of Accountability and Whistleblower Protection. What a mouthful. Goodness gracious. And the Senate Armed Service Committee, as you can see on the screen there, also busy with NDAA markups as well, with a bunch of closed hearings. Now, just slowly transitioning into our how-to series this month. As the title suggests, it's congressional committees in detail. So with that, we're going to use our best friend, congress.gov. In the top right corner, click the committee box, boxed in red there. That will take you to the list of committees. Now, I'm only going to focus on a few this presentation. However, the same methodology will apply to every committee you see on the screen here. Each committee is comprised of a ranking member as well as a chairman or chairwoman. And the rest of the committee is just filled with members. And on the screen, we'll just walk through. I'll show you who's the ranking member, who's the chairman, and then also the committees that they have within it. Now, some committees actually don't have any subcommittees, and I'll show you also as we present. Now, starting off with the House Veteran Affairs Committee, or also the House Committee on Veteran Affairs, also known as HVAC. Chairman, Representative Mike Bost, ranking member, Representative Takano. Now, the way the structure typically works is that the chairman would be the party in majority, whereas the ranking member is the party in the minority. So in this case, Republican will be the chairman, and then the ranking member will be a Democrat. Now, there are actually some situations in certain committees where the ranking member can also be an independent. We'll talk about that later as well. Now, the HVAC committee is comprised of 5 subcommittees: the Disability, Assistance and Memorial Affairs, Economic Opportunity, Health, Oversight Investigations, and then Technology Modernization. Each of these has their own acronyms that we all say. So if you hear us say DAMA, that's Disability, Assistance, and Memorial Affairs, because that's just a mouthful, this will be here. And then on the left here of each section, you'll have the chairman. So Representative Morgan Luttrell out of Texas is the chairman. For the DAMA committee, Representative Morgan McGarvey is the ranking member. Representative Van Orden is the chairman of EO, or Economic Opportunity. Goodness gracious, this is a mouthful. I apologize. And then Representative Chris Pappas is the ranking member. Representative Marionette Miller Meeks, Representative Julie Brownlee. For oversight and investigations, Representative Jen Kiggins, Representative Delia Ramirez, and then Representative Tom Barrett and Nikki Bazinski. Now, on the right here, these are the remaining members of the of the committee itself. Because there's only 2 slots, one for chairman and then one for ranking member, these are all just shuffled about within the respective subcommittees. On the screen here, I've listed the name of the members for all of them, as well as their political party, as well as the state of where they're from. Now, just furthering on the message of outreach, if you see your member on the screen here, feel free to reach out to them. Again, recess, they were just in recess recently around the Memorial Day weekend, the week. They will be going into recess again soon. And that means they're going to be back in their home state, in their home counties. And that gives you the ability to do constituent work on your end. Maybe invite them to any events that you may have on campus, or just reaching out and just introducing yourselves. Moving on to the next committee, the Senate Committee on Veteran Affairs, also known as SVAC. Now, this is actually one of those cases where there isn't any subcommittees. There's just one main committee. The chairman is Senator Jerry Moran out of Kansas, and then ranking member Senator Richard Blumenthal out of Connecticut. On the left and right of the screen, you have the remaining committee members, also with their respective parties as well as their respective states. Now, also on the screen here, you see Senator Bernie Sanders. He's an independent out of Vermont. And you also have Senator Angus King, who is independent out of Maine. I don't think I have it actually in the slide deck, but Senator Bernie Sanders is the ranking member for the House Education and Workforce, for the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Subcommittee committee. Moving on to Ed and Workforce in the House. It's led by Chairman Tim Walberg and then ranking member Bobby Scott. Now, this committee actually has only 4 subcommittees: early childhood, elementary and secondary education, higher education and workforce development, workforce protections, and then the health, education, labor, and pensions subcommittee. Also on the screen here, you have the respective parties as well as the states in which they're from. Over on the Senate, I do have a slide on it. See, I was prepared. On the Senate side, you have the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, led by Chair Bill Cassidy, and then ranking member Bernie Sanders. As I said, he's independent, and that allows him to be a ranking member here. Now, this committee only has 3 subcommittees: the Education of the American Family, the Employment and Workplace Safety, and then lastly, the Primary Health and Retirement Security. On the House Armed Services Committee, it's led by Chairman Representative Mike Rogers out of Alabama, and then co-led by Ranking Member Adam Smith out of Washington. Now here we have 7 subcommittees: Cyber Information Technologies and Innovation, the Intelligence and Special Operations, the Military Personnel, the Readiness Subcommittee, the Sea Power and Projection Forces, the Strategic Forces, and then lastly, the Tactical Air and Land Forces Subcommittee. On the Senate side, you have the Senate Armed Services Committee, also known as SASC, led by Chairman Roger Wicker, and then also co-led by Senator Jack Reed. Now here, we also we have 1, 2, 3, we have 7 as well. The Airland Subcommittee, Cybersecurity Subcommittee, Emerging Threats and Capabilities, Personnel, Readiness and Management Support, Sea Power, and the Strategic Forces. Here, Senator Angus King, he is another member of this subcommittee, and as I said, he is an independent out of Maine. And Tammy, would you like us to lead into our fireside chat?
Sure. So today for our fireside chat, our guest is Stephen, and I always butcher your last name, Stephen, so I'm so apologize. We want to come off and mute. And is it Best?
Batch.
Fetched. Great.
Yep.
So Stephen is a past SBA member and leader of his chapter when he was pursuing his higher education. He now is the policy associate over at the American Legion. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us.
Thanks, Tammy, and thanks, Faisal. Always love SVA. Loved SVA for going on 6 years now. So happy to be here and chat. As Tammy said, my name's Steve Betch. I am a policy associate with the American Legion's National Veterans Employment Education Division here in Washington, D.C. So what we do at the VE&E division is primarily education and employment policy, but we also work in homelessness, small business, USERA rights for our active duty, or sorry, for our reservists and guardsmen, and many other portfolios that we work on. I want to talk to you all a little bit about me, a little bit about my journey, and then talk a little bit about what the Legion does. So about me, I've said my name's Stephen Betch. I'm a Navy submarine veteran. I enlisted right out of high school. I was 17 when I went to boot camp, turned 18 in boot camp, and it was not a great time. I served from 2015 to 2020. I was blessed to serve on board the USS Helena, SSN 725, before she was decommissioned. And then I was blessed with the opportunity to be a plank owner on board the USS Indiana, SSN 789, and was part of her commissioning ceremony down in Port Canaveral, Florida. So I served in the Navy, like I said, until 2020. And I like to talk about my transition out because I think it's unique and I think it highlights a number of issues with the transition assistance program and issues that veterans are experiencing today. Like I said, I got out in 2020. That means I went to transition assistance in about 2019, middle of the end of 2019. I thought I had everything figured out. I had a really solid plan. I was going to go to college. I did research on the school that I wanted to go to, where I wanted to live, what the monthly housing allowance was compared to the cost of an apartment. I thought I'd figured it all out. Turns out COVID-19 threw an absolute wrench in every one of my plans. So I got out officially in July of 2020, but started my terminal leave in May of 2020. So right about when COVID was starting off and people were closing businesses, schools, and all that. That changed my entire plan, but I stuck to my plan the best I could. I still applied and went to the university. I moved to DC and stuck to the plan to the best of my ability. In about August, I found out that my school was going to move 100% online for that semester. So I was all the way down in DC, paying DC housing costs without a job because, as you'll remember, retail restaurants, or retail shops, everything was closed. Even the school didn't have any on-campus staff or student positions open to support people who live down here. So I had a really uncertain future. I really wasn't sure if I made the right choice. I was really second guessing my decision and thinking about kind of what to do next. But I stuck to the plan, and I think that's the most important part. And the kind of the core lesson I like to teach here is you stick to your plan. When you're going through TAP, you get all this information, and you ideally develop a really robust plan, and sticking to that is incredibly important. And I'm going to get to why I deviated from my plan pretty significantly, but I'm going to get to why in a minute. But now I want to talk about college. So I went to American University here in Washington, D.C. It's a private, nonprofit, not-for-profit university. And originally I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to be a lawyer, and I wanted to ideally someday be a judge and give back to my local community and help youth and young kids and young adults stay out of drugs and stay out of prison. That was my plan ever since joining the Navy. In fact, I joined the Navy with the intent to transfer to a paralegal specialist, but that wasn't it wasn't available for me as a submariner. They like to keep us on the boats once they get us. So that was my path. I was going to go to law school and be a judge. It turns out I took an unpaid internship with the House Veterans Affairs Committee in the 117th Congress in 2022. This was one of the most eye-opening experiences of my entire life. And some of you might be thinking, it was an internship. How could that be eye-opening? I learned that during that internship that the things that some veterans are going through are so significant that we don't even know. And I thought my pathway was difficult. And every single day I heard gut-wrenching stories and just heart-punching conditions and situations that veterans were in. And I told myself I couldn't live and let other people live in such, terrible situations without doing my part. So I like to always highlight that as the true beginning of my advocacy journey was talking to veterans on the phone who called the House Veterans Affairs Committee on their last breath, just begging for any kind of help that they could get. And it's bad when you're calling Congress of all people to try and get some support. So on the other side of this, I also like to teach people and educate people on how to get the support you need and what are the best tools for those resources. So I changed my whole path. I went from a paralegal studies major to a political science major, and at the same time applied for grad school to earn my master's in public administration. I will highlight for everybody if you are, I think everybody here is still in school or pursuing classes. If you can find a grad program that is an extension of your undergrad, I highlighted that to students at American University all the time. It was a 4+1. So all I had to do was complete all of my undergraduate up to senior year. And then my senior year, my second half of senior year was the first half of my master's year. So it saved me a ton of time on my GI Bill, saved me a ton of eligibility for future coursework or degrees I plan on pursuing in the future. Maybe, I don't know about that. But I graduated in 2024 with my MPA and kind of asked myself, where do I go from here? I was a school certifying official at American University. I kind of skipped over that part. But after the internship, I was hired as a school certifying official at American University and really did my part to help veterans open the door to their future. This is where I was really introduced to SVA and really got the opportunity to work in the weeds with SVA and other student veterans who were experiencing similar issues with disability claims, classes, coursework, monthly housing allowance, all the same issues I was having, they were having. And we didn't know that there was an entire network or community of people here that were experiencing the same things and had some of the answers we were looking for. So we were able to come together and we had a chapter at our university before COVID. When COVID happened, we kind of closed our doors and closed all chapters and clubs. So we were able to get our club restarted. I was major part of that, was really looking forward to being the first president of the new chapter, but found out that because I was staff, I couldn't officially be the president. So after being elected, after getting all of our bylaws and our constitution in order, I found out I couldn't be the president, but it was all right because we had a great team of an executive board that was going to take it over. And I learned that I could be an advisor. So being able to work as both an advisor and someone who is experiencing all the work as in the issues and the concerns as a student helped really provide the wraparound services to the community that was really needed. And at the same time, we were also helping our military connected students, our dependents and spouses navigate the higher education life as well. As we know, it's difficult for everybody, and anyone using the post 9/11 GI Bill could benefit from a little bit of help. So I mention all that and I say my journey was really strange. I truly never expected to be a policy associate working for the American Legion. Never expected really to work this intensely in veterans services and veterans policy. But I kind of let the wind guide me a little bit, using my core beliefs as, the wind, the sail, and the life as the wind to guide me. But now I'm working with the American Legion and I love it every day. I get to come in and analyze not just education policy, employment policy. Right now, we're going through the Housing and Urban Development's point in time report, which highlights and reviews homelessness across the country and looking for ways to surge resources in some of the most heavily impacted areas across the United States. Washington, D.C., in fact, happens to be one of them where 73 out of 100,000 veterans are homeless, or sorry, 73 out of 100,000 people are homeless. And that's we're tied for second with New York City. And there's other states where it's as low as 2 per 100,000 are homeless. And now we can get into the nature of the statistics and all that, but avoiding all that for now, I love being able to come in and review this policy and, work with partners like SVA to come to a conclusion from we have an issue, we know how to fix it. How do we get the right laws, regulations, and policies to fix it? And where Congress doesn't want to budge or the VA doesn't want to budge, there's times where we as a community can come together and surge those resources in areas where we know they need it. To wrap it all up and give you all a piece of advice for congressional committees, watch the congressional hearings. Keep your eye out for the congressional calendar. The things they talk about at these hearings are what is most likely or more than likely to be law in the future if those in power get their way. And you get to see a lot of times the disagreement or the agreement that the two parties or the two sides have on an issue. I know Tammy, SVA has been a champion for the increasing the books and supply stipend, and you think it's a 100% everybody can get on board with this issue, and you find out there's pieces everywhere where people want to pick and choose or pull from, and it's an eye-opening experience. And that's one bill. There's a large bill right now that's kind of taken the air out of a lot of conversations called the Take Care of Our Veterans Act. I think it's a 61 bill omnibus package that I don't think many veteran service organizations are really ready to talk about in much detail right now because it is so large and encompassing. But there's so much out there and so much that every one of us can learn. I'm learning something new every day. And to go back to Faisal with that excellent slide with the subcommittees and the committees, you highlighted all of them, and I know you probably weren't trying to be all encompassing, but I wrote down, we did an SFR for the Small Business Committee. We're working on stuff with the Agriculture Committee, the Appropriations Committee. So it is, you could spend an entire day looking at just the House Veterans Affairs Committee calendar and then miss, another 20 bills out there that, could have an incredibly meaningful impact on your life or a family member. So I would just, it feels like sometimes you're drinking from a fire hose, and it does feel like that. But my advice is to really highlight the few issues that you're most passionate about, follow those issues, and hopefully you can see them from the beginning to the end. And I'll just plug, if you're ever able to go to SVA's Government Affairs fly-in here in Washington, D.C., please do. It was one of my favorite things every year. I still remember Cameron Smith interviewing me. I think it was 2 years ago or a few years ago. And it's a really great opportunity and a really great time for you guys to go talk to your members of Congress and their staff and really understand some of these issues and, really be a part of the change that you want to see. So thanks, Tammy, and thanks, Faisal. I'm really happy to be here, and I'd love to take some questions.
Yeah, well, thank you, Stephen, for all of that. I was going to add, if you've been watching SBA's media or videos on NACCON or Washington Week, Stephen is a familiar face on our social media videos and things like that nature. I put in the chat the American Legion's article they did at NACCON. American Legion is always a pivotal portion of involvement at NACCON. Not only did this past year the national commander be able to come and speak on main stage, but Stephen and the rest of the team were integral in many of our breakout sessions, and the American Legion had one booth talking about membership in the organization itself, and then American Legion Gaming also had another booth, which I was over there, and that place is always so busy. But Stephen, since many of those that are on today's call or maybe watching this in the future are student veterans, are chapter leaders, and with your Be the One initiative by the American Legion, can you first talk about the Be the One initiative and then maybe how SVA chapters can be involved in that initiative?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for tying that in. The Be the One campaign is really focused on ending veteran suicide, and that any one veteran can be the one to prevent another veteran from taking their own life or causing harm to themselves. I think the connection there to your chapter and to your community is pretty one for one. I think every single one of us, no matter what community you're in, you have somebody near you who has those thoughts or, has had those thoughts in the past. And you can bring your experience to those folks and be a voice to them, and also be a community. A lot of people in the TAP surveys that I've viewed in the past, and I know the PTAP survey goes in it. They ask people, what are one of the feelings you're missing from service, and it's the camaraderie. And I think the Legion, SVA, VFW, they build that camaraderie back up in its own special way. And I think just by having a chapter, by showing up for each other, by doing a weekly, monthly, quarterly check-ins with each other, or buddy checks, all of that really ties back into helping to prevent that person next to you who you might not know is going through something, that one coffee night or that study buddy check-in on a Thursday evening might be the thing that keeps them going. So don't be afraid to show up. Don't be afraid to make a phone call to a buddy or a friend that you served with, and just check in on them and say, hey, I know it's been a while, but how are you doing? And I'll tie it in with a story. I was in a wedding over the weekend up in Boston for a really good friend of mine that was a chapter member and executive board member at the SVA chapter. And I was a groomsman in the wedding, and I didn't know who was all invited to the wedding. Turns out that we had an entire table for our SVA chapter, and we invited our whole SVA chapter, and they were all able to make it. And it was incredible. People I haven't seen in years. People who've graduated, looking for jobs. We're helping connect people with employment in the area. And you never know if the one wedding you decide, what, I'm gonna RSVP and take a trip up to Boston and get out of this hot city for a little while, could really be that thing that keeps you going for the next couple months or few weeks, whatever you need until the next time.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love hearing how chapter leaders remain connected and how alumni remains connected, like yourself, now in your position with the American Legion, still becoming and coming and being involved. Is there anything we should be looking out for from the American Legion here in the next few months when it comes to careers or employment? I believe around the national convention, you guys do some type of job fair. Is that correct? So can you talk a little bit more about that?
So we do a job fair in the host convention city. This year we're going to be in Louisville, Kentucky. So if you're near Louisville, please stop out. I'll give Tammy the information for that so that she can put it out with an email, mailer, or however you guys get your information. And we'd love to have you. We're doing a reception, and we're going to have employers who are ready and looking to hire. Tammy, you'll remember, I believe, was it Google handed out phones at SBA.com?
Yes.
That will be happening at our job fair and our convention as well. So if you're in the market for a free new Google Pixel phone, Google and Hiring Our Heroes have partnered to deliver resources for transitioning and recently separated veteran, well, really any veteran, as far as I'm aware, to have these phones to help connect you to those critical resources that you need. Additionally, we partner with an organization called Military Hire, who does virtual job fairs. I believe the next one isn't until July, but I'll get that information over to you, Tammy, because there are somewhere around 700 participants each week, and sometimes up to 200, 300 employers from all different areas, all different industries looking to hire veterans. It's a veteran and military spouse specific, so they'll be aware of your resume and some of the military language and some of the things that we're more familiar with. And that's Military Hire, and I'll get that information over to you and Faisal, Tammy.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Stephen. I want to add another, there's a few success stories from SVA chapter leaders onto American Legion and then beyond. Our friend Matt Brennan, who is up on the Hill as a part of the HVAC staff. He once upon a time worked for the American Legion and was an SVA chapter leader. Andy Petrie is still at the American Legion, also past SVA chapter member. So with that, I'm going to say connect with Stephen on LinkedIn. The American Legion's DC office is always looking for summer interns to fill some of the positions. I'm not sure. I think you guys are filled up for the summer, but in summers going forward and even semesters going forward, keep connected with Stephen. So if that's something that you're thinking about or maybe considering, or just want to talk to him a little bit in depth about what that position would look like, I'm sure he'd be up to answering any
Especially if
questions.
you're doing a semester in DC, please let us know. We would love to, if you're from outside the area and you get to do a semester in DC or a year in DC, we love that and would love to help you craft a capstone that's, really relevant and really interesting to you and the issues that you focus on. I didn't really mention this, but we have a number of different divisions. So we have national security, which handles most of our active duty reserve military issues, VA&R, which is our healthcare and benefits team, my team, which is economic opportunity, and then our legislative, who are our direct lobbyists and those who are on Capitol Hill every day, pounding the pavement and talking to members.
Thank you. And you know what? I forgot one more connection. I myself was employed by the American Legion at one point in time in my DC journey. They were my first employer here in DC. So I worked on the health team doing their system we're saving program. So thank you, Stephen. I don't see any questions in the chat. I don't see any hand raised, but feel free to stick around for the rest of our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Tammy. Thanks, Faisal. And thanks, everybody.
Thanks. All right, Faisal, let's go back to the slide deck. All right. So with things we have coming up and things that we want to stress going forward, the VFW SBA Legislative Fellowship applications will be opening here at the end of July and August. So keep an eye out for that. If that's something that you'd be interested in and you are eligible to become a VFW SBA Legislative Fellow, please go ahead and keep an eye out for that information. To be eligible, you do not need to be a VFW member, but you do need to be VFW eligible. And a student veteran within the fall and the semester of your cohort. And every year, they get the opportunity to advocate not only grassroots, but grass tops on a piece of legislation. And this past year, our cohort was advocating for HR 1965, which was adjusting the book stipend to $1,400 annually for those using post 9/11 GI Bill benefits. You can click on that QR code or scan it, fill in your address, and it populates a letter that goes to your member of Congress telling them to support this piece of legislation. So like I said, keep an eye open. Applications will be out shortly. Often on here, we talk about SVA's talking points that we had during Washington Week. One of them was the CVIS grant. We've had the opportunity to advocate for this multiple times before Congress when it needed annual appropriations. We thought we wouldn't see any money going into this program for 2026, but guess what? We are. And oh, thank you, Faisal. And so right now the grant application is open, although the deadline is June 23rd. And when I say open, it is school administrators, school employees that apply for this grant. So if you're a student veteran of a chapter and you're hearing me today, and this sounds really interesting, talk to your advisor, talk to your Veteran and Military Center director, let them know that this is going on, and they can go ahead and apply for it. It's 3 years worth of funding that can help support salaries for that center. We've seen amazing schools do some amazing things with this funding. Continuing on with our friends at Google, just like Stephen had mentioned, American Legion, Google and Hiring Your Heroes is handing out some phones here at the end of the summer. SVA still has our Google Career Certificates available out there. So by clicking that link, you can get started, talk to Chad. He'll get you set up with an account and on Coursera. These courses are free to you. I've taken some myself in AI. I'm looking to take some more in project management just to help build my resume and continue learning. And so also help us spread the word. It is that time again for SVA's longitudinal study, the SVA census. So by clicking onto the census, it allows you to bring your voice to our research team and our government affairs team. It helps us ensure that the decisions we're making in supporting pieces of legislation, like Stephen had mentioned, there's a large package up on the Hill right now. There's a lot of integral things into it. But we can't just go up there and say SBA supports. We need to understand who you are, how you're affected, and how these policies and programs will impact our community. So please take the census, share the census. And Josephine said the link doesn't work. All right, we will ensure that gets fixed. And you'll have it by the time you receive the post-webinar email. It'll be corrected in there. And it looks like this year we have an incentive to win a $100 gift certificate. Well, that's cool. I think that's the first time we're doing that. Next, if you run into an issue dealing with your education benefits, or maybe it's something else healthcare related wise with local medical center or filing a claim, reach out to us, let us know. If it's higher education issues, SVA's team will be able to help you. If it's something, like I said, maybe claims related or something at the medical center that you're having an issue with, we do have connections with organizations like the American Legion, BFW, America's Warrior Project. Those individuals can help you out. And share your experience. I know we just did a push out to hear about those that graduated, to share your photos, share your stories. You know, as the summer goes along, continue to help us spread the word of your story by using our hashtags. There's our contact information. The next how-to will be on the 14th. And Faisal, do you want to advance it one more time for me? And I just want to say a big congratulations to Faisal on his recent promotion to Manager of Government Affairs. So, way to go, Faisal. Well deserved. So glad you're here on the team and continuing to do the hard work. And we'll take this time for any questions that we can provide on anything that we covered today. I see a lot of hearts. I see a lot of applause.
I also included a link to the grants in the chat. I'll make sure it's working in the slide deck as well. So this would take you directly to Department of Education's website. In that link, you could like navigate through the boxes at the bottom. There's an information packet and further instructions to apply. So just click accordingly. But again, the deadline is next Tuesday on June 23rd.
Yeah, so get those applications in. I think I saw there was only 4 slots for the grants, but you know what? The more applications they see coming in, the more they see that this is a need and that the grant needs to be continued and more robust.
And then also, like we mentioned, Tammy mentioned that the maximum grant award in this case is $3 million. And that number I personally find fascinating because of the data that they've released going back to 2010 since the grant started. Of the 3 or so grants that have been dispersed since then, the total has been around 2.6 million. So this one grant is more than all the grants given put together. So again, there's only 4. Just get the word out, and we hope that you apply so we can see this come back next year.
Thank you, Faisal. Yes, appreciate that correction. So your next how-to series, Lunch and Learn, will be July 14th, 2026. 2026. So we'll make sure that's changed before we give you that back
Thank
to
you.
you all. All right. Well, enjoy your summer. We'll see you in July. Reach out if you need anything between now and then. If you're taking summer classes, may the grades be ever in your favor. Those condensed classes can be pretty audacious. So thank you. And thank you, Stephen, for being with us today.
Thank you all, and class is dismissed. Bye.
Stephen, if you're still there, I got a quick question for you.